After losing in 2020, Republicans have figured out now how to rig an election using state legislatures, and they're getting ready for 2024. We've got to do something. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. But I want to start out with what I think is like the weekend's big news. That the fascists and the billionaire oligarchs within the Republican Party are already preparing to steal the 2024 presidential election. Now, whether it'll be on behalf of Tom Cotton or Don Trump Jr. or God only knows, Josh Hawley. I mean, who are the leading candidates for Republican president? I don't think it really matters. But I do think that the Trump presidency was just a dry run for this. And their allies in the media are coming together on this, too. This weekend on Fox and Friends, one of the hosts said Trump shouldn't have to go through the courts. I'll give you the exact quote here. This is from Will Cain. He's a Fox and Friends weekend host. He says, "I think what's happening here is we are quickly moving toward a political case being made." Now, this is being made for Trump staying in the White House for another 4 years. Meaning the Trump team is talking to state legislatures in Michigan, Pennsylvania, attempting to make their case. There may not be enough evidence for a court system, but there should be enough evidence for state legislators to change their electors. Will they find more success there? We'll soon find out. And, no, in all probability, they won't find any success there. But this is, like I said, a dry run for 2024. In the beginning, a lot of fascists, go back and look at Milton Friedman. It's the von Mises people. A lot of libertarians and a lot of, objectivists whose underlying philosophy really is fascism. They just don't realize it. They think, oh, yeah, if only the market ran everything, life would be good, and America would be better, and people would be happier. Some of these people, not all of them, but some, and perhaps a majority of them, are actually idealists. They just think that a small number of very smart, very wealthy people need to run the country, and when the rabble starts speaking up and complaining, we need to figure out ways to ignore them, or specifically ignore their vote. This is a belief that has been asserted, throughout the 10,000 years of civilization. And from the books of Kings in the Bible to, the Holocaust, we have seen over and over and over again that this idea of, a smart, small, elite ruler with absolute power ends only one way, in tragedy. So when Joe Biden won this election, Republicans in the Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Arizona legislatures, which could have flipped it to Trump, refused to tell their the members of their electoral college, their electors, to cast their votes for Trump. Now, in each one of those states, there's a state law that says whoever gets the majority of the votes, that state awards all of their electors to the president. This is true of every state except Nebraska and Maine. But they could have easily called a special session of the legislature of Michigan or Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, whatever it may be, and Arizona, called a special session of the legislature and simply changed that law. In the year 2000, when the recount was going on, and it looked like Al Gore was going to end up president, the Florida legislature was planning on doing this, and Jeb Bush, the governor of Florida at that time, came right out and said to the media, "I'll sign the bill." So those legislators in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Michigan, and we're seeing this now in Georgia as well, who said, sorry, we're not going to direct our legislature's not going to direct our electoral college to Trump. They chose to put America over the GOP, right? Country over party. But already the Trumpists, the fascists, the oligarchs are preparing 2022 challengers for these Republicans. And if they can get control of those swing states, they really only have to focus on 6 or 8 states and really focus hard on 4 or 5. And if they can get absolute control of those state legislatures, it won't matter how the people vote in those states anymore, because they'll simply direct their legislature or their electors to vote for the Republican, whoever that may be. Tom Cotton, I mean, pick your fascist. And it's not like we weren't warned. I mean, back in March, a conservative I know in D.C. told me that I'm hearing that the Trump campaign is talking about the 12th Amendment and having state legislators direct their states to vote for Trump. He was pretty alarmed by it. I wrote an op-ed about it that was published on Alternate and Salon and Common Dreams and Raw Story, etc. Back in April. I had Tom Perez on my program a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and said, are you ready for this? I mean, I talked with Mark Pocan and Ro Khanna about it. Everybody, all these Democrats seem to think, well, yeah, it's remotely possible, but I'm not so worried. And, their confidence turned out to be true, right? I mean, we won't know until, arguably January 20th, but I think they were right. But what Republicans have learned from this is that this is totally legal. The Constitution says states shall determine how their electors will vote in the Electoral College. And the states have just passed laws saying, well, you got to vote for whoever gets the majority. But they can pass any old law they want. From now on, we only send Republican electors to the Electoral College. I mean, it's that simple. That, again, the legislature of Florida was 2 days away from doing this, already had the legislation prepared, and the governor had signed off on it in 2000 to stop Al Gore from becoming president. I mean, this constitutional loophole could give the next authoritarian Republican in the White House the absolute power to ignore the will of the people in this country and take us down that road that Germany and Japan and Italy and Spain traveled in the 1930s, and that today we're seeing played out right now in Hungary, the Philippines, Poland, India, Brazil. Neo-fascists have seized power in every one of those countries. Back when the Electoral College was put into place, Hamilton said, the process of election by the Electoral College affords a moral certainty that the office of president will never fall to the lot of any man who is not in eminent degree qualified, endowed with the requisite qualifications. In other words, they would be the guys who'd go to D.C. and find out if the guy running for president was a drunk. But, that's not how it's worked. And the Electoral College is now an anachronism, has been for over 200 years. It no longer takes a week for the news to get from Georgia to D.C. And we need to end the Electoral College before the next election. That Electoral College loophole has to go.